I'm the only Tory boy in the village. Now let's talk about Nadhim Zahawi, who will step down as a Tory MP. Nadhim Zahawi was the Tsar of the William Shakespeare. Now I said a big event would happen around May Day. Now this actually could be the big event, and the biggest event. Even bigger than the Palmer, even bigger than the Meteor, is the William Shakespeare, which is the social cataclysm. And the rats are jumping off the ship. It has been admitted that William Shakespeares have problems. The William Shakespeares have problems. This MP was the Tsar of the William Shakespeare. He was MP for Stratford upon Avon. That is Shakespeare country. He was known as MP for Shakespeare. That is what he was known as, because he comes from Shakespeare country. The first man to get it was called William Shakespeare. You shake it before you spear it. And William Shakespeare wrote a play called Julius Caesar. Caesar, the word Tsar, comes from Caesar. We have Trump and his trial. Look out for something to happen to Trump, as he was the father figure of Operation Warp Speed. Now, Zahawi left, and he said, he quoted Shakespeare as, "My famous constituent once wrote, go to your bosom, knock there, and ask your heart what it doth know." And boy, are there going to be problems with people's hearts. So the big reveal is underway. And my channel predicted the big reveal over 2 years ago when we were right in the middle of it. So we have Russell Brand. He's just had his ISIS baptism. And as I say, all these events are about creating this new age. And this is one huge conspiracy. And it involves Kabbalah and Hermeticism and the people that follow that practice, as I will show. And they've been doing this for at least, I would say, about 300 years. You can record it, and even longer. You have the same families. And so Russell Brand is coming out, so the big reveal is underway. Now, let's talk a bit more about Oswald Mosley. Oswald Mosley was an aristocrat. He's part of this nationalist movement. Now, I've shown how Mussolini was a British agent. I've shown how Trotsky, Lenin, and Stalin all met in a pub in Brick Lane before they started the revolution. This is all fact. Now, Mosley was a supporter of Trotsky. He also met Gandhi. And he was related to Winston Churchill. And Winston Churchill's mother was this heiress called... Her name was Jenny Jerome. So Churchill's mother was called Jenny Jerome. She was a daughter of an American millionaire. Now, the Churchills had become broke, and so they were looking for foreign money to invest in the family. And this happened a lot to aristocrats in the 1800s, British aristocrats. They married with wealthy American industrialists, their daughters, and a lot of these industrialists were part of what we call now the Illuminati bloodlines, and they were beeps, okay? And this is the case with Jenny Jerome, as I will show. And Churchill's real father was Edward VII.
Was 16, her mother took her and her two sisters, Clara and Leona, on a tour of Europe. In London, she met the 29-year-old Prince of Wales, the future King Edward VII, and they began a passionate affair. By the time Jenny was 19, the lust had simmered into a friendship, which would last for the rest of their lives. Her intelligence, wit, and sense of humor endeared her to the prince and his wife, Alexandra, of whom she was also a close friend. While Jenny was attending a sailing regatta on the Isle of Wight, Edward introduced her to his friend, Lord Randolph Spencer Churchill, son of the Duke of Marlborough. As a younger son, Randolph wasn't in line for a title or much of an inheritance, but Jenny liked him well enough, and the union gave her a legitimate place in the British upper crust, and in the prince's inner circle, the Marlborough house sat. Jenny and Randolph became engaged 3 days after meeting, but their nuptials were delayed for several months while their parents parents hashed out a financial agreement. The nobles, Fitz and Churchills, were aghast at the idea of their son marrying a new Norwegian American. But when the Jeromes offered a dowry of $250,000, several million today, they changed their tune. The couple wed at the British Embassy in Paris in April 1874. Their son, Winston Churchill, was born in October, 7 months after the wedding. Jenny claimed that a fall caused her to go into premature labor, but many noticed how healthy and large the baby was. When asked years later about his birth, the Prime Minister quipped, "Although present on the occasion, I have no clear recollection of the events leading up to it." Winston adored and admired his mother from afar. As was customary at the time, she left his care in the hands of nannies and boarding schools. They wrote each other often, but she rarely visited. 6 years later, by a brother, John. While both boys bore a striking resemblance to their father, Jenny and Randolph began to live separate lives and have separate love affairs. Jenny slept with King Milan I of Serbia, German Prince Karl Kinski, and Herbert von Bismarck, son of Otto, the politician who masterminded the unification of Germany. She loved to travel and take cruises around the world. It was widely reported, but never confirmed, that on her journeys, she got a tattoo on her wrist.
So, Jenny Jerome, whose real name was Jenny Jacobson, had an Ouroboros tattoo on her wrist. That was very rare at that time. And this shows you that she was part of that Kabbalah religion, and she was also connected to the Huguenots. And remember that I did a video showing how the Huguenots were actually beeps, and they're related to the Cathars. And they had this kind of Gnostic beliefs, which are exactly the same as Kabbalah and Hermeticism. The same religion, which then developed into Theosophy, and it's the same religion as Freemasonry. And the symbol of the Theosophical Society is a six-pointed star with an Ouroboros. You have the flag of Israel, it is a flag of Hermeticism. It is a flag of Kabbalah. And it goes back all the way to ancient Egypt, as I've explained in my videos. And so she had this strange tattoo. She was a woman that slept around with lots of men. And Churchill's real father was Edward VII. And so you had these rich Americans marry into the British aristocracy, but I believe that the British aristocracy also were intermarried with banking families from the get-go. But they fell on hard times in the 1800s. There's her tattoo of the Ouroboros. And so they married these American industrialists, and a lot of them were beeps. And this is very important because it connects us with Oswald Mosley. So there's the Ouroboros, symbol of Freemasonry and Theosophy. It's the same religion, it's Hermeticism and it's Kabbalah. It comes from the ancient world. And it is this idea of man becoming God. Man rising up through dualistic ideas which are represented in the Kabbalah. It is really the cult of Isis, in which a synthesis is then created for man to become God. And this is why we have transhumanism. And this is what all these events are about. So we had Edward VII, he was the secret father of Churchill. Now this man, Levi Leiter, was the father of Lord Curzon's first wife, who was Mary Curzon. And Mary Curzon had a daughter, so she was the daughter of Levi, so she was beep, and she had a daughter who married Oswald Mosley. And so you see that Oswald Mosley was married to a beep. Oswald Mosley's wife was beep. And he actually had lots of affairs with members of her family, like he had an affair with her younger sister and with her stepmother. And they were all beeps. Then when she died, Mosley, who was a member of the Labour Party and a supporter of Trotsky, then changed his tune. But remember, he was always related to Churchill. He married a woman who was part of the Mitford sisters, and the Mitford sisters were related to Churchill's wife, Clementine. And it shows you that Oswald Mosley was a double agent, and the far right has always been a phony construct. The way it's been presented, okay? There may have been some people who were actually authentic at the time, okay? But it was immediately steered and controlled. And this is why you have Tommy Robinson with the flag of that country on his shoulders. Because it was all controlled from the get-go. We have evidence of this because Mussolini was a British agent. And Oswald Mosley was friends with Mussolini, so was Churchill, so was probably King Edward VII. King Edward VII used to go to sex parties in Paris, where all these people used to meet. So these people are all connected, and they're all connected to that Kabbalah lineage, Hermeticism, this rule of the world. And it's something bigger, because it's to do with transhumanism. They seem to believe a higher intelligence has been guiding mankind. And this intelligence will be incorporated into man via transhumanism. And we have those themes in the 2012 Olympics. In the 2012 Olympics, we had an advert which had UFOs. The ritual was a crown bug ritual, and it was in Stratford, another place with a similar name to Stratford-upon-Avon. The ceremony was based on William Shakespeare. Russell Brand was in the ceremony as the child catcher. You had a big demonic figure with a needle. You had the music of The Exorcist. You had the NHS. It is all connected to the William Shakespeare. At the end of the closing ceremony, you had a rising phoenix, and you had the symbols of the OTO. Then in the Paralympics, you had the theme of transhumanism, you had the biting of the apple, and you had this idea of superhumans. Humans becoming gods. In the 2012 Olympics, all that was a ritual for this time. And as I say, these other events are going to happen. But the biggest event is the social cataclysm, is the William Shakespeare. So, a man writing for the Jerusalem Post of beep descent said that he found a letter where Churchill admitted that his mother was beep. Now, Boris Johnson, who's a born liar, wrote a book called The Churchill Factor. This is how I knew that 6 years ago, Boris Johnson would be Prime Minister and he would take us into World War III. We were on the verge of World War III, but all sides are controlled, and part of it is actually purely based on the media. Now, Churchill was very, very pro that country in the Middle East, and people say it's because his mother was beep, but Boris Johnson, being the liar he is, and remember, Boris Johnson said he identifies himself as beep, and Boris Johnson, being the liar he is, says she wasn't, but he says she was of Huguenot descent. We all know, now looking back at the Huguenots and Nigel Farage, that the Huguenots were beep. They were people who hid their identity, and they were connected to Kabbalah and Hermeticism. And this is why you have the tattoo of Jenny Jameson, Churchill's mother, which has the Ouroboros. It shows you that they're all part of this cult, and this cult goes all the way to the ancient world. We have to remember that Egyptians buried themselves as mummies, and they believed that they would come back to life in the future. We have the technology now to bring them back alive. How did